I just want to start with the thing of the women in Islam working. And we all know that as Muslim women, and we know the example of Prophet Muhammad and Sayyidah Khadija, radiallahu anha. But the issue of managing the income from that money, this is the big issue now. And even in modern societies, or in especially in rural areas. Because now in Sudan, in rural areas, or even in Africa generally, women are working hard, agriculture, and they have that income, but they cannot manage that income. And I think this is the thing that we need imams like him to address that issue and try to find solution, because this is big conflict. Other issue about the marriage, early marriage. Even us in our societies, the hadith of Prophet Muhammad regarding Sayyidah Aisha radiallahu anha, and she got married from him 9 years old, which is a contradiction in this hadith. Some say the correct hadith, some say no. So this is really big challenge for us as Muslim women in our society to challenge the issue of early marriage and FGM. Because also in many countries like Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, all other countries no FGM, but why it is in some society and related to Islam. So this is a family planning issue also. Thank you so much.
And number 2?
I was wondering what you think about Surah 33, verse 33, about the one that says women should stay in the house.
In your speech, you took approach from the motherhood. And I would like to ask you, can one legitimize respect the woman as a woman and not only just because as her function as mother? Is it possible? Thank you.
What are the requirements for a person to explain Islam? Because we know there is one Islam. That's we have different reading of Islam. Everybody is talking about different version of Islam. So what are the requirements for a person to explain to others or to represent Islam? This is what's confused people. Number 2, we are against early marriage, but we are also against early sexual relationship, because we see that this is one way for violence against young girls. Even if you are married, you are abused, and if you are not married, you are sexually active, you are abused, because the girl in 13, 14, 15, she cannot decide. So our message is we are against them both too. How Islam approach this idea from marriage to save or to protect the woman.
Thank you very much. Wow, this is a lot. First, let me, Sister Fatima, thank you, Sister Fatima, right?
Yeah.
Thank you, Fatima. The first one is about the issue of women working in reference to the management and ownership of the woman. You know, basically the women are very lucky, because even in case that the women are not working, then the woman basically has the right to own half of what the man gets. Half of the income of the man belongs to the woman, because it's about 50-50, right? That is to be honest in our presentation. Let's say I'm working and I have 100,000 a year. 50,000 basically belongs to my wife, and that 50,000, she has an absolute right. She wants to spend it with me, or she wants to own it, she wants to spend whatever she wants. That is her absolute right. In addition, if she's working, and she also gets, let's say, $50,000 a year, so she has basically 100,000 that absolutely belong to her. If she is merciful enough, loving enough, and compassionate enough to help the family, she can help the family. Otherwise, she can say to the husband, no, it is your responsibility. If we are starving, you are going to be responsible. The 50,000 is mine, the 50,000 is mine from you, and you cannot touch that. But I think when you come to the spirit of Islam, it's about, again, mutual responsibilities. Hunna libasul lakum, again, they are garment for you, and you are garment for them. In time that the husband is in need of help, then the wife is responsible to help the husband. And that's why the husband doesn't have any right to prevent the woman to work. Because oftentimes, he himself is not able to support the family. And so basically when you come to the issue of management, she has the absolute right to manage her own property. And that's why I can say that there's no other teaching that gave the right of ownership and the right of wealth management earlier than Islam itself. And I can ask you if you know any that gives to the woman the right to own and the right to manage their own ownership, let me know. But Islam is 6th, 7th century teaching. And it's really gave to the woman the right to ownership and to managing their own properties, their own ownership. Now, early marriage, Aisha. The issue of Aisha is really an unfortunate issue. Many people say that she was sick, she was 9. You know, remember when Prophet Muhammad migrated to Medina? Who brought food when he was in hide? He was hiding? Her younger sister, Asma. So if this younger sister was able to bring food to her father and the Prophet, how old she was? At least she was 9, 12 years old, maybe older than that. So to say that Aisha was 9, basically is wrong. That's why the hadith basically is very weak. Some people say she was 16. Some people say she was 15. Some people say she was 18. But unfortunately, people have been, they didn't do deep research about Aisha itself, and they just took it as a part of, oh, we have to believe because this is what Islam says. Now we have to do some research around it, okay? And that is an unfortunate misinformed that have been happening, particularly among our non-Muslim friends, among the Muslims as well. And unfortunately, Muslims take this as a part of faith. It's a part of faith. Okay, FGM. I think, again, to come back to my earlier presentation, that we need to distinct between cultural practices and religious practices. Ethiopia is a non-Muslim country, but Ethiopia is practicing FGM. Should we say these are Christian practices? No, we'll talk about that. And so it is a part of particularly African cultural practices. Unfortunately, of course, there are some people trying to justify that, taking some issues from religion, where we didn't know Prophet did that, I didn't know at all. And so again, this might be mostly cultural practices rather than religious practices. And I don't see, to be honest with you, I don't see that any benefit for the girls to be circumcised, if you may say. Okay. Now, wala tabarruj. Now, I think you quote the ayah partially. وَقَرْنَ فِي بُيُوتِكُنَّ وَلَا تَبَرَّجْنَ تَبَرُّجَ الْجَاهِلِيَّةِ. What is prohibited is to get out like the ignorant women do. But if you get out respectfully, it's okay. So what is not allowed basically in that particular verse is to get out following the ignorant women. It means ignorant here is in the time of Prophet. There are some other women are doing something wrong outside. Yeah, like what? Like my, oh my God, I told this. And now when I talk today about striping, street dances, it also happens in the time of Prophet in Mecca. There are women did that. And so the Holy Quran reminded the Muslim woman that do not go out as the Jahili people, the ignorant people, these bad people are doing out there. But if you go out respectfully, for good purposes, there is no prohibition. There is no prohibitions in our teaching. Because the time is limited, so I have to stop here.
Okay, next round of questions. There was, yeah.
I wanted to ask you a question because it's 13 years that I work in the Middle East.
Sure.
So I'm talking about Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I'm working with Syrian refugees. And I loved every single word that you said. But my question is, how can you help us in our work? Because when I work with Syrian women who have been raped during the war, there are a lot, there is a huge number. And we are not able to find a single imam helping us. In this moment, I'm working with more than 60 local operators in Jordan. Or in Jordan, marriage below 18 is forbidden, but still so many 14 years old girls are married. And Imam, basically,
That's why we started Imams for She, so we need to mobilize.
How can you help us? Because
How
it
can we
doesn't
help?
make any sense that I repeat what you
Yes.
say here.
Question.
I just wanted to ask a bit of a different question, and I was wondering because we work a lot around the human rights of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender persons, gender non-conforming. And the question that I have is because with religion, it's always very, there's a big struggle with religion and homosexuality. So are you able to point us towards some progressive values in Islam that could assist us? Yeah.
Thank you so much. I am Azza from Egypt. And a lot of ulama now play with political, and the political is corrupt. And a lot of ulama all the time talk about women, not more conservative, but not in this ulama talk about why you don't have justice, why you don't have equality, like Al-Azhar in Egypt. Al-Azhar in Egypt, this is big organization, talk about Islam in Arab, in the world, but never talk against Mubarak, not don't talk against military now. So I think the knowledge is very important. Knowledge is very important, and we need new interpretation because Islam forever. Thank you.
A woman's right to her body and sexuality. Can you give us your thoughts on that?
Woman's right. The woman's rights to her sexuality and body.
Thank you.
I just wanted to mention about a woman marrying a non-Muslim, a Muslim woman marrying a non-Muslim man, because it was an issue that Imam mentioned about that if a non-Muslim woman is become Muslim and her husband is not a Muslim, in Islam, if he is converted to Islam, then he will be considered husband and wife, if not automatically divorce occurs. It was not that much explained. I just wanted Imam to mention this more for our non-Muslim friends. Besides, like if a Muslim man can marry a non-Muslim woman, but who are in 3 holy books like Jew, Christian, or in Zabur. It has logic. Both issues have logic. So I know I might know the logic, but I wanted Imam to explain it better and much more logical way to our non-Muslim friends.
So my question is about power and dominant discourses of Islam. So in a society or world where patriarchy still exists and is getting more and more reinforced, how do you get your, say, the more progressive discourses of Islam or more feminist, the ones that are using a human rights lens, how do you get that to a dominant discourse? Because I don't see it happening, because the legitimacy is a function of power.
Yes. I am Margaret from India. Could you please tell the Pada system? First question. Second,
What do you want to know about it?
I want explanation about the Quran said it's a compulsory women should be the Pada. First one. Second one, Quran said women does not leadership in the local mosque, the jihad, whatever it is in the local community.
It is truly, there are truly a lot of questions here to answer, but I don't think I'm going to answer all of them, and I'm going to answer very, very briefly. Number one is the issue of respecting mothers versus women. Before mothers, a woman first. And that's why, historically speaking, because since the beginning of humans, and I'm talking man and woman creations, they are all both respected equally. The right to enjoy paradise, the right to be responsible in front of the law, the right to bear the responsibility of violating the law, eating the forbidden fruit, and so on and so forth. So there had been gender equality from the beginning between male and female in Islam, historically speaking. And then we talk about the Quran, for example, says, وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَبْشَى, by the night when it becomes dark, and by the day when it becomes shine, how Allah create male and female. So Allah basically compared day and night into male and female. Means it's just rotations. It's a rotating responsibility. And so before talking about respecting the mothers, we are talking about respecting the woman as well. In my view, it's very important. It's very important. And then, again, the issue of explain the early marriage is done. The Middle East Imam, again, is very simple. Just bring me there to be an Imam in Syria or Jordan. But again, let me just remind you that they have their own cultural view of life, not necessarily Islam. But this cultural view of life has influence on the way they understand the religion. And so we have, like Christianity, when you go to Caribbean or South America, you will see different Christian practices of South Americans and North American people. I'm talking about American here in the United States and Canada. There's a different of Christian practices because of the cultural and social circumstances surround the life of those people. And so being as an Indonesian origin, living in the United States, of course I had my own way of seeing when you talk about Sharia, for example. Sharia law have been a human interpretation of the Sharia itself. But when you talk about Sharia, that is the ground of the religion. I cannot be Muslim without Sharia because I pray 5 times daily. That is my Sharia. I am building bridges of understanding and partnership with Jews and Christians. That is for me Sharia because that is my religion. But for some others, they see that it is violating the Sharia because they don't have Jew in their life, in their countries. So again, when it comes to the Sharia, it depends on how you interpret. And interpretation against being influenced by the cultural and social circumstances where you live in, and it becomes Sharia law where you live in. So the Taliban have their own Sharia that I disagree, certainly, prohibiting the woman to study. That is against Muhammad ﷺ instruction for the woman to study, because that's my understanding of the religion. Prophet Muhammad obligates the woman to study. Taliban prohibited the woman to study. So which one you want to take? You want to take it from Muhammad or you want to take it from Taliban? You can choose, by the way. And so now about homosexuality in Islam is very, very sensitive. But let me just tell you this. Islam, number one, is based on freedom of choice. Okay, I'm a Muslim also because I choose to be Muslim. It's not because my parents. I studied it, I understood it, I was convinced that it's the best way for me to follow, and I become a Muslim. We don't believe that we are born being as such. Okay? And so everything is beings on choices. I may disagree with some interpretation of homosexuality or whatever that you may call it. I may disagree. But I have to respect the choice of peoples. And let me just tell you this, that everyone is choosing anything in life, certainly on the basis of responsibility. You choose to be such, you're going to be responsible for it. I choose to be such, I'm going to be responsible for it. So I cannot impose my idea, my views on others. And that's why, at the end of the day, I may disagree with you, but I have to respect you. It is very important. Now, ulama, politicians, and like Egyptians, ulama, unfortunately, many ulama in the world today are even becoming more politicians, and their interpretations of the religions are more politics rather than religious. I just came back from Malaysia. I became a keynote speaker in Malaysia recently, just a few weeks ago. And the people ask me about why non-Muslims are not allowed to call God Allah in Malay language. That is their language. But the Malay Christians or Chinese Malay in Malaysia are not allowed to call God Allah. So my response, I said, this is not political response, this is a religious response. When you prohibit non-Muslims to call God Allah, it means you degrade Allah down from being the Lord of 7 billion people to only 1.5 billion people. And you don't have the right to say it. It becomes really a big issue in Malaysia. Because this is a government's decision in Malaysia to prohibit the non-Muslim to call God Allah. Who gave them the right? This Allah is the Lord Rabbul Alamin, the Lord of the universe. Malik al-Nas is the king of all humans. And you are here to say, no, it's only the king of Muslims. So you're degrading Allah in that case. Now, what else? The power to decide, right?
Yeah. Who has the authority?
Who has the authority
It's
to
about
decide?
power. It's the authority of who to decide what Islam is.
Basically, I have to be honest with you, even in the time of Prophet, the Prophet was still alive. Supposedly the Prophet said, no, don't give your idea, don't give your opinions. But what the Prophet said to his companions, if you do ijtihad, you think about the interpretations, the understanding of religion, and if you are correct, you're right, you have 2 rewards. But if you're wrong, you have 1 reward. Means what? Every Muslim basically is given an opportunity to learn and to understand the religion. In one hand, it is a dilemma, because everybody wants to be a mufti, to give religious decisions. And that is also a dilemma, it's also a problem, because we don't have Pope in our religious communities. But at the same time, there are blessings in disguise. Imagine that the Saudi scholars decide for me as a Muslim in America how to live my Islam in America. And according to Saudis, there are many things. Insurance is not allowed, haram. Insurance is not allowed in Saudi Arabia. It is considered a part of gambling. So can I live in the United States of America without insurance? No. I want to own my car. I want to own my house. I want to build my business. No insurance? It's impossible. No. And so nobody can impose. So again, every Muslim has the right to understand the religion. Although if you are doubtful of anything, that you have to go to someone who is considered more knowledgeable than yourself. It's called فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Ask the people of knowledge if you don't know. But you have the right to understand. Not only have the right, you have to understand the religion. And my sisters, the women, you must understand your religion. It's not the man who decides for you. Because the problem for the Muslim woman today is they took it from the husband. They took it from the man. And at the end of the day, they complain about the husband. Because you haven't studied it well. So you have to study the Quran, you have to study the Hadith, and also the Imams, unfortunately. To be honest with you, sometimes I feel embarrassed. When the British state is president, what is his name, Pakistani by the way, killed his wife, slaughtered his wife. There was an Imam here in New York, was asked by a media, mainstream media, what do you think about this? What he said, that's what's happening when the woman did not or do not respect the husband anymore. As a husband, as a man, I was so embarrassed with that question, with that answer of an Imam, a big Imam in New York City. I don't have to mention a name. So sometimes also this kind of understanding, this kind of communication also is a big embarrassment to the Muslim community itself. Veil and burqa is the last one. There is no anywhere that Muslim women should cover fully in the Holy Quran. Because only in the Middle East they have their own interpretation, because they say, it can become fitna. What is that fitna in English? Temptations. You see the beauty of the woman in their face, so it becomes temptations. Do you think the women are not tempted by the man's beauty? If I'm handsome, so I have to cover my face too. So there is no such. What Islam mentioned is, and it is also, there is a different opinions among the scholars, says that it is about covering your head. Covering your head. Is it a must or not? But historically speaking, all religious communities of the past also, Jewish communities traditionally cover the head, Christian community cover the head, even today the nuns also still cover the head. But again, there are some other understanding of it. And at the end of the day, it's about, I respect your opinions. If you see 3 Muslims, just expect 9 opinions. Thank you.
So wait, I want to answer some of the questions real quickly on the issue of power and how to disseminate the progressive interpretations of Islam. I think it's really important that members of the Muslim and non-Muslim community promote the MPV values and the issues of egalitarian and justice, because we are very justice driven. And there's a lot of information on our website. Our position statements are very based on Quran, and I would encourage Muslims and non-Muslims to take that, to borrow it, to share it. It's available for free. On the issue of marriage, for example, we did not touch on this, but it is very important that here in the United States, when Muslim women are marrying non-Muslim men, they want to do the nikah. They don't want to do a civil marriage. And a lot of times the women, what I've noticed in my experience here in the United States is that oftentimes the justification for Muslim women to marry, for a Muslim man to marry the non-Muslim is permissible is because the children will be Muslim. But what I've seen is that when Muslim women marry non-Muslim men, the child tends to be Muslim, and when the Muslim man marries a non-Muslim, the child tends to be the faith of the mother. Right? Contrary to what the traditional interpretation is. On the issue of, there was one that was really...
Is that anecdotal, or is
sorry?
Is what you said in regards to the passing of the faith, is that...
Yes, that's right. It's in regards to passing the faith.
No, but is it anecdotal, or have there been studies done to...
Oh no, it's anecdotal. It's from the experience of we as grassroots community members, and we have thousands of members of in the Muslim community here in the United States and abroad, and so that is our experience, and that's our observation. So... Yeah, but that's a given. That is a given based on what the Imam answered. That even if it's homosexual, a right, you are born with it, and it is your right. And I don't think anybody can dictate. Absolutely no, in Islam, no one can dictate what you want to do with your body. But it is up to you, as the Imam said, for example, that you make the rightful decision based on your own intellectual decision. There are a lot of misinformation out there, some intentionally constructed by anti-Muslim entities, but with references from the extreme and radical interpretations of Muslims themselves. And of course, there are plenty of examples of the manifestations of these extreme interpretations. We hope that we have succeeded in addressing and undressing some of these false pretexts based on Sharia law. I hope that collectively you have learned something out of this. Feel free to reach out to us. We at MPV, we believe, and a lot of you touched on this as well, is the mindset. We have to change the mindset of the people, of the Muslim population in this particular case, because then the imams themselves. And so we don't believe that the imams working in their capacity and us social workers and every working in our social capacities, I think that disconnectedness does not help in our common work, in the work that we are doing. So I do think that change needs to happen not just at the top, but it also needs to happen from the bottom as well. And this is the massive education initiative that needs to happen. The problem is back to the issue of where and how can we make progressive interpretation of Islam the norm. That requires a lot of funding, which we don't have because we can't compete with the Wahhabi source of funding. And that is where we need the bodies and the masses to share our materials. We believe in the moral and social capital that our faith Islam provides us so that we can use our culture and faith as vehicles for sustainable development for the benefit of all people regardless of gender, faith or non-faith, denomination, race, creed, age, and sexual orientation. With that, we conclude this morning's panel. I encourage you to connect with the panelists and again remind us of our on-camera interview. Thank you so much for coming.
There's a lady I got to know. She lived 1400 years ago.